Hi, everybody. It's Belinda Allen and my friends, Mariano Gomez. Hey, Mariano.
Hey, sweetheart, how are you? Good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Great having this discussion today. I'm
Yeah,
really excited about this whole thing.
me too. And Mr. Steve Indo like window. Hey, Steve.
Hello, greetings from Los Angeles. Good afternoon.
Glad you haven't burned up in all those fires. We need you. And we are lucky today. Oh, are we lucky?
Yes,
Um,
we are.
Mariano, why don't you do the introduction of our guest?
Well, you know, we actually leave a month between each one of these live meetings, and we've been doing this now for almost a year. So it's one of those things that where we try to schedule guests in between each one of these sessions and episodes. And, for us, it's more about knowing what's going on in the community, who's doing what, and kind of the excitement of it all. But I said, I gotta be able to land this John Levesque guy, in our session, and this is a dream come true for us. And without further ado, I am so happy to introduce my good friend John Levesque. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys. That was a wonderful intro. Thank you.
It was.
Way too big for me, but thank you so much. I'll take it. Happy to be here.
No, are you kidding? You are like the guy, right? And
Yeah,
I
he's the
should
guy.
let me formally ask you something that quite a few people have asked me. Levesque or Levesque?
It is Levesque. It is a silent S. I don't know why there's an S there that you don't pronounce, but that is how it is. Yeah, it gives a lot of people a hard time, so I usually have a lot of grace for it. I won't even correct most people. It's just kind of second nature, but it is Levesque.
Well,
I
good,
think
because
that's the Quebecian in you,
yeah,
John.
That's right.
I've been pronouncing it that way all along, so I'm like, oh well, yeah, who knows?
You've been right. You've been right.
All right, good. Well, before we get into things, I want to thank you for that great conference. That was kind of your brainchild there. What, just
Yeah.
last week, right?
It was, yeah, last Thursday, a week from today. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, it was. And thank you. And you're welcome. And it's been quite a journey to see that thing come to life. I started it back in 2018 as the Flow Conference, and we had about
Hmm.
6,000 people register, and we thought that was amazing, right? Like 6,000 people coming to see our conference. Oh my gosh. And then it changed to the Power Automate Conference, right? We had two iterations of that because they changed the name. Didn't have the same ring as the Flow Conference, if you ask me.
Hmm.
But it kept growing, right? And what happened is as it grew, we kind of changed the ethos of it a little bit to show all the products. Last iteration, right? We changed it to platform, but throughout, one thing remained the same. It was always about community, right? When it was about Power Automate, it was about the Power Automate community.
Hmm.
When it's been about the platform, it was about the whole platform community. And so I think for this iteration, to just straight up change it over and say, this is the Power Platform Community Conference, I think really kind of gave us the truest iteration of it yet. And so final count, actually, I haven't released this publicly. I'll say it the first time here. 34,114
Wow.
Wow.
people
Yeah.
registered, and
Awesome.
22,459 actually came and watched live that day with us.
That's
And it was crazy
awesome.
because I had my session that same day, and I kept looking at the counter. I had like 4,000 people in my session. That was insane, I gotta tell you,
Yes.
and
Wow.
it was really, really cool.
And I was part of
So
the closing session, and by then people got tired and dropped off. We only had about 2,200.
I think you had 2,800 still
Yeah,
by the end. I mean, that's still quite a lot. If you think about like
right.
a
it's a
normal
lot.
show, 2,800 is a lot. I mean, I think we had a 8,200, somewhere right around 8,200 at our peak,
Hmm.
which was in the first session of the day. And then we kind of slowly went off from there. But it was amazing. Virtual events tend to lose about 30% of their viewership hour over hour. And we were losing about 8 to 10% of our viewership instead. So we had a lot of people coming in as people were going out. And so super happy about that event. And I think, the coolest part about it really was how many Microsoft people showed up. I put out the call and I said, hey, let's ask us. Let's do what they do for us. Let's give thanks and talk about how great they are. I think Microsoft does this thing with the community where we always, as the community, show up in the keynotes talking about how great Microsoft is, right? This product is great. It changed my life. This product is great. It changed my business. And so what a cool thing to be able to flip that around and have the Microsoft people thank the community for their impact. And so seeing them name names, seeing them call out where the community had been involved and had changed the product direction or changed someone's mind or left an impact I think it was a special thing. And I think it was the birth of something. I think we created something there that I want to keep taking forward.
I thoroughly enjoyed that piece of it. And I'm not complaining about only having 2,800. My only problem with that is Mariano will, dangle it over my head for years to come.
That's all cool. But, Jon, you and I, and certainly the team here, we've known each other for quite some time. But for those of you who haven't actually experienced Jon Beck, please tell me in your own words, who is Jon Beck?
In my own words. Yeah. Who is Jon Beck? Oh man, okay, I got to think of an elevator pitch for myself. So if it was, if you ask me who am I personally, I would say I am a passionate person who is excited about living life and who never wants to let any moment rest. I am happiest in movement, being busy, trying new things, experiencing. And if you ask me professionally, I help people make up their mind about things. So my job is to help create mechanisms that allow people to be creative, that allow people to connect with each other, that allow people to find information. And so I try and create an ecosystem that allows community to flourish. You can't create community, but you can create conditions for community to exist. And so that's what I try and do.
That actually brings me to a couple things for those of you watching us. Jon has 2 great channels that you will want to subscribe to. You can subscribe to his Jon Beck Tech channel on YouTube, but he also has a wonderful lifestyle channel where he actually talks about his adventures, and he's a Washington State enthusiast and might as well actually get himself named the ambassador of Washington State, because you produce some wonderful videos about your state. And tell us a little bit about that adventure and what you do in your free time.
Yeah, man. So like I said, experiencing life is an important thing to me, and I take that to the extremes. I'm not happy to look at a picture from a mountaintop. I want to go climb to the top of the mountaintop and see it with my eyes and take the picture for other people to see. And I happen to live in a place that allows things like that. Washington State is a beautiful place. It is literally, no matter which direction I head, north, south, east, or west, if I go 2 hours, I am in some crazy place, the ocean or snowy mountains or the desert or the volcanoes or the rainforest. Like the possibilities and the nature here to go and experience it are insane. And so I definitely take advantage of that. I love to fly drones, and so I make a lot of videos about flying drones through nature. I have this weird thing where you might notice once I mention it, in all of my drone videos, I don't like to show people. I really dislike showing people. I just want the nature. And so a lot of my stuff is very purist. I get mad. I'll throw videos away if I see a hiker or something. I'm like, oh, that clip is ruined. Like, I just want the pristine solo nature. And that's really an important thing to me. I spend a lot of time out there. I am connected. My life, my job, it's all one thing, right? It's very hard to disconnect your professional life from your personal life when you're in a position like mine where it is building community and being with the people. And so my disconnect is getting outside in nature. I say this all the time, like some of my best friends are the trees. when I go and hang out with the trees, it makes me very happy. I become calm. I get to relax. I get to recenter. And so, it's funny because I'll take that time for myself, but then I'll be in content mode. I'll have an hour out in the woods where I just relax and I'm like, okay, bust out the drone. We got to make a video.
So have you captured any whales with your drone?
I haven't because I am not. I try not to fly out over big open water. I try to stay within, eye shot of the coastline. And to get the whales when you're near the coastline is tough. And so I have not been lucky to get any whales. But I did fly with a bald eagle one time. He was checking out the drone, and then he kind of took off ahead, and I was just up above and behind him and followed him for a good while, and we were just flying together. And so it was pretty cool to get that perspective of the bald eagle.
Wow.
There's been other creatures, lots of like pelicans and seabirds and stuff like that, sea lions, lots of that stuff. But I would love to get a whale.
Yeah, we'll definitely wait to see your footage on that one. That would be spectacular. Hey, listen, man, you mentioned something that is very key, and that is you cannot separate your persona from your career, and certainly, it's all in one of the same. One thing that I want to understand, though, and for those of us listening, how did you get here, man? Seems like a cool job to build community. I mean, how did you get here? What journey brought you to this point?
Yeah, I will agree. I do have one of the coolest jobs for sure. Especially before the pandemic, even like I got to travel to user groups all over the world. I got to be in person and build community, and that was something special. And I cannot wait until that time comes again where I can go and be with the community. But even now, right, building digital community, helping people stay connected in this time, it's important, and it feels important more than ever, I think, to me. And so it has been a crazy journey. It's not a job that gets advertised usually. This job doesn't really make a job description, and they don't put it out on the website. It's kind of something that gets made. People kind of like just make the job. And so let me start a little bit back, and I'll talk about my history. It's something that's important to me, actually, because I think a lot of people see my position and they think, oh man, like that guy must have had crazy experience and degrees and all sorts of stuff. And so I finished high school and I never went to college. I don't have a college degree. My experience all came learned. I was an IT guy. I was good with PlayStations and computers when I was a kid. I was always taking apart computers and putting them back together. I would get junkers off of Craigslist, and I would take all the working parts and I'd build one machine, and then I'd like give it to my friends so we could play Counter-Strike together. And then I would go and I learned to solder, so I could solder PlayStation 2 chips, processor chips into working machines. And so I was modding PlayStations, and so it was just all things that I was passionate about because I liked gaming.
Sounds right up Steve's alley.
Yeah, and Steve, that's you into hands-on tech building stuff like that?
Well, I've built PCs and my servers for the last 20 years, so I only use machines that I've built in terms of desktops. I can't imagine buying a PC off the shelf. It's really hard to imagine. So I can relate.
Yes, it's actually one of my favorite things is like every 3 or 4 years I'll build myself a new gaming PC, and it's like Christmas. It's like a second Christmas. I get so excited. I set up the whole table. It's a ritual. And so, that technology interest kind of took me a couple places. I started hanging out at the local PC repair shop. Those don't exist anymore. That's a relic nowadays.
Actually, I do have one down the street from here.
Do you?
Yeah,
Nice.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so if you're wondering what that is, the Geek Squad has replaced all of those. Your local Best Buy is now your PC repair shop. But they used to be independent places that were owned by average Joes. And so I hung out at this one, and the guy taught me a lot of stuff. Stuff I didn't know, and I taught him stuff, and I brought video game business, and we had a good relationship. And so I moved out here to the West Coast when I was 19. I met a girl. That was all pre-19. I met a girl when I was 19 who lived here in Washington. I was from Connecticut. I packed up everything I had and moved all the way across the country for that girl. That didn't work out, but that's okay because me being here in the Seattle area was absolutely meant to be. I didn't have a good job history here, so I think I started working at Blockbuster Video. It was my first job here in Washington. At like 19 years old, I was at Blockbuster, and
big future there.
What's that?
There was a big future there for you.
Oh yeah. Again, so computer repair and Blockbuster, right? I have a very bright future. And so, funny enough, I actually got plugged into the local PC repair shop again. I went and met the guy, started hanging out there. I was 19 or 20, and he gave me a job, and it was better than Blockbuster. It was like $4 an hour more instead of $8. I was making like 12. Like, awesome, right? So, long story short, I'll kind of jump through some history. I have a long help desk history where it wasn't very interesting. It went from help desk to project management to systems to project management. And I landed at Microsoft as a contractor, working as a project manager on a product called Windows App Studio. Does anyone know Windows App Studio? Has anyone touched Windows App Studio?
Nope.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
So Windows App Studio was Microsoft's very first low-code, no-code tool, okay? And it was a browser-based, Java-based browser tool where I could drag components into a canvas, and I could have 6 squares that equaled 6 swipe left screens. And I could drag components into those squares, and then I could put text. I could put RSS, I could put labels, I could add images, I could add feeds, I could do a couple things. I could plug in from the Microsoft Store, very basic stuff, but this was important because Microsoft was laying its groundwork for what was to come, like everything we know today. Yeah. And so it's funny because that product was relatively unknown. It had like 10,000 people, I think, that were using it. And Microsoft was making big bets on low code because this tool had arisen, Project Spark had arisen, and there were like 4 or 5 other low-code drag-and-drop tools that arose at the same time. And so I helped sign a couple of deals for this tool as a vendor. They were trying to figure out how do we get users. And I was a vendor on the team doing project management, and I just happened to speak up one day, and I was like, why don't we try this? And the idea was the Windows Insiders program is gaining 1 million people a month. Why don't we say to sign up for Windows Insiders, you have to sign up for Windows App Studio? And they were like, that's genius. And so we did it. And overnight, we literally took the product from 10,000 MAU to 1.1 million MAU. And monthly active users. Sorry, MAU is monthly active users. So we went from 10,000 to like 1 million. And everybody was like, holy shit. And so this low-code tool that was leading the pack called Project Sienna reached out to me and said, John, we saw what you did for App Studio. We want you to come and do it for us. We'd like to offer you a blue badge. And so at the time, I was a vendor doing this just as a contract. And so now the opportunity came to come work for Microsoft. And so I was like, okay, heck yeah. And so they hired me onto the team, and my job was growth hacking. And so it wasn't community, it wasn't evangelism, it was growth hacking and go to market and support. Those were the 3 things that I was set to create plans for. How do we support this tool? How do we get users into it? And how do we talk about it? And so, I did a good job there as well. I took that community from 0 to, I think, 100,000 users in a year. And then it was funny because I got an offer from a startup to go and be a marketing director. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I'm going to go do that. And I lasted about 7 months there, and then I went back to Microsoft.
I should tell you, Reza Durrani commented he hasn't played a video game since 2017 when it ended when he took up Power Platform.
Oh, see? New addictions.
That's his new game, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reza. Anyhow, go ahead. Back to your story. Yeah.
No. And so I say, it was a very, very unexciting story, right? A lot of technical background, a lot of just kind of being in products that I was in almost by accident, right? Like I didn't really know what I was doing at App Studio. I made some suggestions and they worked. I came to Project Sienna. I got put in charge of things. And so the story is someone who didn't graduate high school, or who graduated high school and didn't get a college degree, right? Learned technical background just by playing around because of video games, and somehow parlayed that into creating community around no code tools.
But you know what? That's kind of the essence, nonetheless, of what we've been evangelizing around the low code, no code experience, right? You can come from any background and learn this tool set and transform yourself and your career eventually. So, your experience seems to be along the lines of that philosophy.
Well, so that's why I try and preach it, right? Like, I'm not special, right? Anybody can do this. Anybody can transform their career, right? Like, it's all about finding that thing and for me, it was Power Automate, right? Project Sienna became Power Apps. And for me, that was never a passion. But as soon as I hit Power Automate, something clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get this. This is fun. This is exciting for me. And so I think the point is I had a very long and uninteresting career until I found something that made me feel passionate and alive, something that I could connect with and I found an opportunity in. And all of the stars kind of aligned in that moment where I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in here. I'm going to really try and develop this whole persona and passion and try and take this and let other people know that this is exciting and fun and this creates possibilities for them too.
Cool. That's a very cool story.
Now,
I like
Jon,
hearing that.
Yeah, my understanding is, well, talk to us a little bit about the Power Automate community. I mean, you built the Power Automate community, or you, if nothing else, you're one of the largest contributors of building up that community. And we started getting into that time of the conversation, the bottom of the hour, where we talk about, what's next and what you're working on. So tell us a little bit about your experience with the Power Automate community. How large is the Power Automate community, compared to the entire Power Platform community, and what's next for you? What is driving your passion today?
Yeah. So the Power Automate community right now, we had our record month last month. It keeps growing. We keep going up. We haven't had a reset where we've gone backwards in time in over a year. And I'm very happy to say we actually passed 400,000 members, active members in a month in the Power Automate community last month.
Nice.
Compared to some other products, that's really good. Like Power BI is our biggest. They have over 1 million. Yeah. They're 1 million plus. But we're in second place right now, is what I'll say, for Power Automate to be at 400,000. We and I feel very proud of that. It's a testament to, I think, where the product is going. And I think, this new Power Automate desktop tool has added a whole new crowd of people as well. Whereas, we had API flows and we had a massive following around that. I think now to have a real fleshed out RPA experience is going to bring a whole other crowd as well. And so I think, that's a big part of the future for Power Automate, is figuring out how do we talk about this Power Automate desktop crowd, because it is going to be very different than the crowd that's working with API flows. Not everybody needs RPA. Not everybody wants RPA. And so how do we then separate those things in a way that makes sense, but then also keep the conversation together in ways that make sense as well, right? Because we don't want to separate it out so much that I have to be one place to talk about my APIs and this other place to talk about my RPA, right? Especially because we're trying to bring that ecosystem together. And so a lot of my thinking right now is around that, is how do I take this community that is really, really doing awesome and is cohesive and doing everything it's supposed to be doing, and how do I now create new areas for different personas to thrive? And so I've created a Power Automate desktop topic in our community. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first step. And if we see that start to blow up, we'll then identify additional subtopics, and maybe we'll give it its own separate grouping in the community, right? And my goal ideally is that it's very close together and we don't have to create a separate area. But in support of that, a lot of the things I'm thinking about are what are the campaigns we do to drive that activity, right? So a lot of the things we do is social media, where I'll have social campaigns that point back to the community, right? Talk about templates that are in the community, the Flow Cookbook, or webinars or videos that live there, or our super users who are there and what they win from being a super user. We put out these patterns on social to try and publicize the things in the community that we want people to be doing, right? And so we consistently drive those behaviors. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Because I think that's a big thing too, is I think our social communities and our forum online communities are a bit separate too, where on social, a lot of people aren't aware of all the goodness that we have in our actual community site. And so that's a big thing for Power Automate. A big reason for its success is that we've made massive campaigns on social to consistently be driving back to that forum content to say, this is where all the valuable content is.
For Power Automate, to use a movie industry term, it's a sleeper. And I think when you say 400,000 now, I don't think it's, that's just because so few people know about it. That's the only reason. I think it is, it's so hard to figure out, to get people excited about all the opportunities that are available to them. So we have Reza watching today, Reza Durrani, and I want to share one use he had. So at a recent conference, I did I invited you to join the competition, Jon, but you weren't attending the conference. So the fun and non-traditional uses of Power Automate. And Reza won, Reza Durrani, but he did something that was so unbelievably cool. He used a flick button, an Internet of Things button that's about the size of 2 or 3 quarters stacked on top. And so his wife was, they recently had a baby, and she had some issues when she was pregnant, and hives were one of them. So he stuck it to a box of Zyrtec, because that was her. And so when she took the Zyrtec, she'd press the flick button. And if she felt like it was coming on again, to avoid overtaking it, if she couldn't remember, and Reza, correct me if I've got this wrong, when she couldn't remember if she took it, she would double click the button and then check her phone, because email would come up telling her, hey, you last took your Zyrtec at this time. And so that way she wasn't overtaking it and wasn't putting her pregnancy in any danger at all, and she was able to control the hives. And something that simple is astounding, and that was just a personal use. I mean, you take that and turn that into a business case. I mean, something I flat out stole from Mariano, I added to it though, is using the flick button to do a backup. Or he did automates to do a SQL backup. I added on the flick button to back up all the SQL databases. So an accounting office, if they're about to do something big, they don't have to call IT, and IT doesn't have to stop and do a SQL backup. They just walk into the controller's desk and press the button, and Power Automate backs up all the SQL databases and emails the IT department saying, hey, backups were done here, so they're just not filling up some hard disk someplace. And that's the same thing as Reza's wife clicking the button on the box of Zyrtec.
And related to that, I presented at, I think it was the user group summit a couple of years ago with Kerry Hadley. He has an entire library of SQL Server administrative tasks that you'd normally do in Management Studio or whatever, all stacked up as Power Automate flows. So he can execute, he can change permission, he can detect permission changes, he can perform administrative functions that are not normally done this way, all through Power Automate, right? And really phenomenal tool set that frees him up. He can be completely mobile with the native mobile app and administer SQL servers at client sites everywhere. So it's the one challenge I found when doing the presentations and sharing the Power Automate presentations at conferences is the challenge is not the tool. The challenge are the limits of our imagination and realizing how we can apply this or coming up with creative ways to use this. And when you find those creative ways, it's amazing, but we're not used to having to invent in that manner, it seems. So
That's why
Totally.
I like those non-traditional things, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
they you stop immediately thinking about business, and that usually frees your mind open to come up with a business idea. That's cool. I mean, it was Mariano showing me the combination. I think in the same time he showed me, this was quite a couple years ago.
Yeah,
He
a couple
showed
years
me
ago.
doing a backup using a flow button, and then he also showed me as soon as he got the flick button some of the things he was doing with flick, and it was non-business stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute, one in one. Oh, I have now a two, something new
Yep.
and exciting. So
Yep. I love all the examples of that you're sharing of buttons too. I think flow buttons don't get a lot of love. They don't get the love they deserve,
Yeah.
and they are really, really cool and fun.
Yeah.
I think here's one of my favorite button examples. I share this often at conferences and in my keynote talk. I was at an engineering firm, and they create tools for other people. Basically, like you would send in a spec, and they would design and create all this stuff for you. Okay, and so they're like a third party that does this for all over the world. They manufacture other people's things to spec. And so it's crazy because every day they have trucks in and out, and every morning there's this truck delivery that's supposed to come at the same time and unload a whole bunch of stuff. And so it was funny because I was working on site with them, doing a research, watching them use the Power Platform. And every day when I'd walk in, I would just get annoyed because I would see like 20 guys standing around. And I don't know, I'm, process improvement now, like in my mind, I'm like, why are people standing around, right? This is inefficient. And so it bothered me. I remember it bothered me for 2 days. And, I asked the guy, I said, what are those guys doing? He says, oh, they're waiting for the truck. I was like, they're waiting for the truck? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, like, is the truck late? He's like, well, yeah. I'm like, does that happen often? Well, yeah. Like, okay, so I don't think anything about it. We go about the training. The next day I come inside and sure enough, those guys are standing there waiting for the truck. I'm like, oh my God. So we go through the whole day of training, and I tell the guy, I say, okay, tomorrow morning, I'm going to help you fix this problem, okay? When I walk in and I see all these guys waiting for the truck, we're going to fix a problem you don't even know you have. And so sure enough, I come in the next day, those guys are standing there. I had it. I had a BTTN, not the flick button, because those are Bluetooth. I had a BTTN, which is Wi-Fi. It's bigger. It's like a Staples Easy button. You have to hit it with your hand. Well, I put it on their table next to the loading dock, and I hooked it up to their Wi-Fi, and I started building a flow. And I said, when this button is pressed, and I pulled up the, what was it, Vonage or InfoBip or something that does text.
InfoBip.
There's a InfoBip. It does text messaging in Flow. And so I pulled up that service and I said, okay, what's your phone number? Put it in. What's your phone number? Put it in. What's your phone number? Put it in. And then I put a message. The truck is here. And so now, when the first person sees the truck, they hit the button and everybody gets a text that the truck is here and they can all leave their job and come and deal with the truck. No one's standing around waiting. So it was funny because this business had no idea this was a problem. They went back and they did like a cost analysis on like, what is this 20 guys standing around for 20 minutes a day costing us? And that stupid little $86 button and 5 minutes of my time saved him $80,000 a year.
Very high tech.
Jeez.
Right?
Very, very cool.
Super high tech, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you hit the key when you said they didn't even know they had a problem.
Exactly. Like they were fine with everyone standing around, right? And I'm over here like, you're bleeding money. Look at all this money you're bleeding. Like this is, I'm Mr. Entrepreneur, right? I'm Mr. Process Improvement. I'm like, how do we get more from less all the time? And so it was bugging me. I couldn't stand it. I mean, because it was so many guys. If there's 4 guys standing around for a truck, I don't even think I'd notice. But when there's 20 guys at the loading dock for 3 days in a row, I'm like, there's a problem.
So Reza also had another comment there. He said when we were talking about growing the Power Automate community, he said we need to grow the Power Virtual Agent community as well. So can you show us some Power Virtual Agent?
Yes, I can. A little bit of news. I have recently taken over the Power Virtual Agents community. as well as Power Automate. So that's now in my realm as well, which is very exciting. So thank you, Reza. I totally agree. We need to grow that community. So yes, let me make sure I have some stuff pulled up here, and I don't have anything up that I can't show.
Like so many people, like Daniel Christian and probably even Mariano, I feel like Reza's my little brother, or a nephew or something. I just adore him. So
Yo,
Reza
absolutely.
is the man.
he
Reza
is.
is
We all love him.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Power Virtual Agents. If you've never created a bot, it'll look a little different. There'll be a button right here to launch a bot, and you'll want to do that. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and it deploys it for you. And then you'll get to a screen just like this, where you can author topics, publish, or monitor performance. Couple things to point out. There's a little bot head up here in the top right corner. If you want to add a new bot, you'll notice there's no option for that on the main screen. They hide that under here, where you can add a secondary bot right there. And also, if you want to get to your general settings, they live underneath this gear. So just a couple things to point out. Bots, they operate on a couple key things. The first one is entities. If you are a Dynamics or Common Data Service person, entities are going to be very familiar to you. If you are a SharePoint person, likely not as familiar. And so what an entity is a set of characteristics, right? So here we can see that age is an entity. And so what that is a characteristic that I don't have to create. A country or region, another characteristic. And so the cool thing about these is they're all related to each other, so that when I create a person, they can have all of these characteristics, and I don't have to recreate that data all the time. We can just relate those things to each other, and then we have a meaningful record of information that we're not recreating over and over and over again. And so this is kind of one of the benefits that you get when you do things with Dynamics or the Common Data Service. You have entities to work with. The other important part of virtual agents is topics. Topics is how we teach our bot how to interact. And so you actually get some that are out of the box. I've deleted them. They're lessons that are going to teach you how to interact with the bot and how to do things. Now, a couple caveats that I want to point out. When I first started with Power Virtual Agents, I made a big mistake. I went down here to my greeting topic, okay? And so let's go ahead and click into a topic. This is a topic screen where we have a name and a description, and then all of our trigger phrases, okay? So this is how we start the bot interacting with us. Hi, how are you? Hey, hello, hey, hello, greetings, right? These are things that people might say to start talking with someone. And so then you can go here to this authoring canvas where you can begin to author how this bot interacts. And so we'll have our trigger phrase box that's going to load up at the top. And then you can see that there's a pre-programmed set of messages. The first one is, hey, I'm a virtual agent. I can help you with account questions, orders, information. If you'd like to speak to a human, let me know. So what can I help you with today? And so what you'll begin to do now is you can ask questions, you can call an action, which is how we call a flow from Power Automate. We can show a message, which is just plain text like this. We can jump to other topics, or we can end the conversation. And all of this is kind of pre-programmed in. So before I start authoring, I want to go back to topics really quick. And so you'll see that I've done a couple of things here. So a big common mistake that I hear that often people make when starting with Power Virtual Agents is if you come from a flow background, it's going to be very, very tempting for you to begin to use this canvas to create all of your logic. Yeah. And what I want to say to you is don't do that. Don't actually try and create logic here that spans between multiple topics. Instead, you need to understand that this bot is actually smart enough to hand off between topics on its own, and you don't have to build that logic in. So what that means is, if I start to interact with this bot and I were to say, hello, he's going to come down the greeting topic, right? And we just saw how that was set up. Now, I don't have any additional actions under the greeting, and so I can't go any further there. But then, if I were to go ahead and say beer, he jumps right over from my greeting topic to my beer topic. Okay, and now I created none of that logic behind the scenes. In fact, if I did go ahead and create a bunch of logic behind this greeting, I would break this handoff, because what would happen then is the bot would attempt to stay inside of my greeting instead of jumping over to beer. Okay, and so why do I have a beer topic? Well, because I'm Jon and beer is a passion of mine. And when I put this bot out, I recognized it got a whole bunch of questions, and 90% of the questions were about beer. And I had not created a beer topic. And so what I learned was people want to ask my bot about beer. And so I better go ahead and create a beer topic. And so I'm going to actually go ahead and just show you here real quick. You can hit plus new topic. You can make it whatever you want. So actually, you know what? Let's actually make one that I need. Let's call it
Wings.
so I covered the wings in the beer. I'm gonna call this one gaming. Okay, and so this one topic all about gaming. Sorry, my keyboard's so loud. It's mechanical. Now this is where we set our trigger phrases. How do we want this bot to identify that we're actually talking about this idea? And so you can see here, it actually gives some suggestions. Let me zoom in. It tells you that you should give 5 to 10 phrases as a best practice, okay? And so one of the things that people might ask when thinking about gaming is, what's your Twitch channel? Do you game? Do you stream? Where do you stream? Your favorite game? Okay, so I have 5 trigger phrases there. And now that we have those, we can come here to the authoring canvas. And so this is, again, where our builder is. And so, again, for those of you who are familiar with flows, you're going to love this experience. I keep asking the flow team, like, hey, why is this canvas builder so much easier to use? Because it really, really is. Are you ready? Okay, so you can see my trigger phrases, right? And now let's put a message in. What's the bot going to say? Yes. Gaming. One of my favorite things. Right? And so that's just the statement we wanted to make. And then let's go ahead and have it ask a question so we can get some further clarity. Let's have it say, what can I tell you about Jon's gaming habits, right? And so then we can have multiple choice options here, and then we can have these then options for the user to pick. So Twitch stream link, right? And then notice I added an option, and what did it do? It actually went ahead and created a condition over here for me. And so now I can put in a second thing. Demand gaming videos, because maybe I want them to go to my YouTube channel instead of my Twitch, where the videos live after. I add another option. Oh my gosh, look at that. It just created this whole switch case now, and now I have 3 options ahead of me, and I didn't have to do any of that. It creates a variable for each and then drops them into this condition. This building experience is just like, it's luscious. I love it.
Luscious. I love it.
It really is. Right, so then maybe we'll have the third one as, what's your favorite game? Okay, and so then very quickly we can fill these things in. So show the message. Want to come hang while I game live? If I could type, that would be great. Right, and so then I have that option. And then let's go over here and put a message and say, Mass Effect is the best game series of all time. If you're gamers and you haven't played Mass Effect, you are missing out. Definitely do that. Do that. And then I don't know what this link is offhand yet because it's a brand new channel. So we'll just go ahead and put that. So now we'll save, okay? And then the coolest part is we can actually test this right in line. So if we come up to the top here, we're going to see this refresh. There's our experience. And so we can say, do you game? And then the bot, look at that, is going to say, yes, gaming, one of my favorite things. And then it asks a further question. What can I tell you? So then I have options here. And so let's say I want the stream link. I click on that option. The bot then is going to find out that we're going to head down this branch, and it's going to then go ahead and give me a live link. And so I can click on that link and boom, get taken right to my Twitch channel. And so, and so now let me show one more thing just to show the interactivity of this. So this is done, right? This gaming branch is done. I don't actually want to, maybe I want to add in additional options. Maybe I want to ask extra questions, right? Maybe I want to make it conversational. But if I don't, if this is all the information I want to get out, suddenly I can come over to here to my topics, and now my beer topic is done and my gaming topic is done. And so I can do this. I can say, do you game, right? And then I can say, what's your favorite game? And he'll say Mass Effect. And then I can say, want a beer? Yes, beer, Nectar of the Gods, right? And so then you can ask additional questions. What are some of your favorite beers you tried? Want to buy John a beer? What's your favorite spot for wings and beer, since Mariano called that one out? I'm so glad you asked. There's one place and one place alone that I would say that heaven was like, and that is J. Timothy's. They have the best wings on the planet, and I have eaten wings all over the world, and I can tell you they are still the best. And so, right, but you notice what happened was this bot jumped between beer and gaming. And if I want, I could go back, right? What's your favorite game? And then look it actually knew that that was the question I wanted, right? Because the other thing about it is it has natural language processing behind the scenes. And so notice it actually jumped my initial choice because I asked a question that it had the direct answer to. So it knew from context that this is actually exactly what I wanted and just gave me that answer. And so when you're building your bots, don't overthink the logic. Behind the scenes, there is intelligence happening that's going to move this about for you. Jump between your topics, recognize questions and answers. And the coolest part is the more trigger phrases you build in and the more this bot gets used and gets feedback, the smarter it will get, actually. The more it will recognize phrases, the more it will understand questions, the more it will understand context, and it will actually become a smoother and smoother experience for your users the more it gets used. I'm astounded at how amazing it is to create a chatbot because like that editor, as you see, is crazy smooth. It's luscious. And then just the experience of working with it and seeing how the intelligence passes these things back and forth is just phenomenal to me. I keep telling the team, like, hats off, guys. You have made an amazing product here.
Data Girl has a question.
Super cool.
Yeah. So does it track what people are asking and the conversations they have? Is that what you were going to ask, Steve? Because
yes, I'm wondering if I ask about, what is your favorite movie, if that is not a branch, does it start to track that or prompt the designer to add that branch?
It does, yeah. So in your analytics here, you will see all of your sessions and your summaries. And so if you click into all of these, let me see here. So there are those topics. And I think because this bot hasn't gotten used by anyone else yet, that information isn't showing up, but absolutely yes. And so this is JonBot 2.0. I actually scrapped the first version because, like I said, I built all my logic into my greeting because I didn't understand how to use the tool. So I killed it off and built this one. But as soon as it does start getting used, yes, inside of your analytics here, you will see what are people asking, like what phrases got missed. And so one thing to call out here is there is a system fallback, okay? And so what will happen is you will run into things that people will ask that your bot will not understand. And it will then fall back. You can create something here that says, okay, if the bot doesn't understand, transfer to a human. Or if the bot doesn't understand, offer an email option, right? Or
go look for it on Edge, for example.
Exactly. There's a lot of
your
options.
knowledge base.
Bing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
I was just going to say
transfer.
you put in a reply WTF, right, and leave it at that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, a couple things I'll point out. If you're interested in understanding fallback and how it can be useful, check out the Build a Bot series on the Power Platform YouTube channel. Kent Weir just did an episode yesterday about how to get the most out of using Power Automate with Power Virtual Agents, and it was mind-blowing. A couple things that came out of there that I would love to call out, actually, before we change topics here. For Power Virtual Agents, one of the most important things you can know is if you publish this bot when you're ready, right? You click this publish button, and then your deployment channel is Microsoft Teams. Oh, I have errors in my topics. That's okay. If your only deployment channel is Microsoft Teams, so if I build this bot, I can actually deploy it to Teams absolutely free. All licensing costs for virtual agents go away.
That's
so
awesome.
All of the functionality that I want to build in, as if I want to use flows, all that goodness. There are a couple caveats in when you jump into premium features that are going to be a bit outside of the realm of normal use. But for most people, probably 99% of people, if you want to deploy this bot in Teams as your only source of conversation, it's absolutely free. When you want to extend and put it on a website or in your Facebook page or whatever else, now licensing costs will accrue, but as long as you source it only in Teams, absolutely free. And that's huge news.
Yeah. Cool.
Premium connector is not included, I suppose.
Premium connectors not included. That's correct. Yeah. So then let me show one more thing that most people actually don't know, and I didn't know until only like 4 or 5 days ago, okay? This is a huge one. And so very important to also share as publicly as possible in as many places as possible. So when I am in Power Virtual Agents and I want to build a flow, it is of paramount importance that I click this call and action button and then I click create a flow right here, okay? Do not go to powerautomate.com, create a flow, and then call it from here. Only call the flows that you've created from this menu in Power Virtual Agents. Why is that? Why do I have this stark warning? Because when you create a flow from here, when I just clicked this button, create a flow right here, it actually creates a flow under a different marker. This flow gets 15,000 API calls of its own that are registered through your Power Virtual Agents licensing. That will not pull from your 10,000 API calls per day of your personal accounting.
Got it.
These 15,000 runs will accrue to the virtual agent and will be separate. And so you will save yourself all those runs.
Awesome. That's good to know.
It is
amazing,
good.
Very good to know.
Yes. And so I only learned about this recently. And so please feel free to share this with everyone. When you are creating flows for virtual agents, always create it clicking this button because that sets a different flag behind the scenes that pulls those API calls from a pool of the virtual agent rather than the pool of you.
You got Reza's attention. He's all excited.
Yes,
so, yeah.
I know. That's also good because I got to present a topic on Power Virtual Agents and Power Automate on Saturday at the Global BizHaps Day event, and this would be a killer for them to know.
Yes.
This would be awesome to know. Yeah.
You know, John, it would be really helpful for Microsoft to build a bot about licensing for us.
I know. Wouldn't
the
it?
bot the bot would go to the insane asylum, I'm pretty sure.
It'd probably get shut down from having too many runs.
Oh, and tomorrow, Houston's having a full day event. If you guys are listening and you haven't signed up, the Houston Power BI, I think it's the Power BI, Houston M360 or 360. Reza is going to call this out to them as well. So the word's already spreaded now, John. From vacation, you are spreading the word.
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
No, it's good. That's an important thing to know. I freaked out when I heard that. I was like, why aren't we like talking about this all over the place? That's a massive value that's unknown.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So good. Glad. Please do shout it from the rooftops. Tell everybody.
Awesome. That's very good.
I am super excited about this. This kind of wraps us up for the end. We probably should wrap up the conversation so that we could end on time. But yeah, this is very, very cool. I I've been struggling personally trying to think about how to use Power Virtual Agent as well. I was sharing with you guys beforehand. Dumb me went. I frequently will just walk up to the swimming pool and jump in, no matter how deep it is. And I'm like, I'll build a bot that looks at my SQL data. And I thought it was Steve, but I remember talking to someone, and they're like, oh, it could do it, but don't start there. Don't make that your first one.
I mean, it depends on what you want to do, right? I mean, if you want it to do a lookup of one field, right, that's not hard to do. But if you're trying to have it do a lookup and do comparison or transformation, that's a lot of behind the scenes flow work. Mm-hmm. And so I would say a lot of that would come down to flows, actually. And so if you're comfortable manipulating SQL with flows, then definitely you could use SQL to power your virtual agent, because all you're doing is you're sending a question from the virtual agent back to Flow to receive some data, right? The user is asking something, but you're retrieving a specific value. And then all it is in Flow is question from and send back to. And so all that SQL transformation would actually still happen in Power Automate, not in virtual agents. And so, correct. I mean, if you're very comfortable building SQL flows, Belinda, then I would say go ahead and make your first virtual agent.
Yeah, don't let
interact with SQL. Yeah.
Yeah, I am actually. I've built quite a few flows that reach into SQL. So yeah, I guess I could do it.
You could. It's just
the only one thing I was asking the PDA team was, give us the ability to return a result set as an adaptive card. You know how you have those three little options that you created and branched out nicely, and it was presented to you with buttons and everything. I would love to have a result set provide that same experience as an adaptive card. That would be phenomenal.
So I'm pretty sure that that's coming. I've seen some things I've seen some internal builds. I'm pretty sure that we have a lot more display options for presentation coming forward. That's absolutely going to happen. I don't have solid dates on when, but I know for sure that they are working on how do we present the information in some beautiful ways.
Awesome.
And Reza's saying he uses PVA to let people make requests on what they want blogs on. So nice. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
My bot here that I'm working on is going to be the personal assistant bot, and so it will hold all of my like what I hold in my head, I will put in it, and so then I can free all that information out of my head. And when people ask me, right, I'll just send them the link to the bot. Here you go, Ask Jon bot. And when I go on vacation, I'll literally just put the link to the Jon bot.
And that's awesome. And that's kind of scary to me that Jon might become robotic in the year 2020 with the year we've had already.
I keep telling people I've been trying for a long time to automate myself out of a job entirely. I think with the virtual agent, I get one step closer.
So Jon, just to put the final touch in this session today, what is your message for everybody out there in the community that is watching us?
Man, it's possible for you. I am not a special being. I am a very average human, and if I can get here and do this, you can too. I would say that what it takes is really just a moment of deciding that what you have right now isn't what you want, and it all comes down to choosing that you're ready for more. And this platform has enabled more for a lot of people, and it can enable more for you too. And I think what it comes down to more than anything is just a decision within the individual to say, I'm kind of sick and tired of what I have now, and I want some more. That's how it started for me, and that's how it started for so many others in this community who changed their path. And so if you're sick and tired of what you have, you can just say, I want some more, and you can go get it. It's possible for you.
So once again, I'm sorry, go ahead, Belinda.
I was just saying, he's making me cry.
And once again, Jon, for everybody, can you repeat those social media outlets for everybody?
Yeah, Jon J. Levesque, Jon J. Levesque. That's the tag on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can find me all over the place. And if you just Google my name, Jon Levesque, you'll find all the rest. So Google's a good helper to find me, but Jon J. Levesque is the handle all over.
So is Bing.
Well, my friend, it's been an absolute pleasure having you around and joining us today in this session or this episode. And we really appreciate your commitment to community. You've taught a lot of us on this call, on this session, a lot of things over the years. And more than anything else, man, we value your friendship. That's how we're going to leave it. So thank you very much, everyone. See you all soon. Have a great evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.